There is a moment, silent, unforced, when a man's heart shifts from attraction to loyalty. It doesn't happen because you asked for it. It doesn't happen because you earned it through sacrifice or silence. It happens when he looks at you and feels something deeper than desire. He feels seen, not just by you, but in you. He sees his values reflected in your eyes, his integrity honored in your actions, or his effort acknowledged not with praise, but with genuine respect. And in that moment, something inside him settles. He doesn't just want to be with you. He wants to be worthy of you. This is the fifth and most powerful trigger: respect, not flattery, not dependence, not admiration for what you can give him, but deep, unwavering respect for who he is at his core. When you truly respect a man, you don't try to change him. You don't manipulate him with guilt or affection. You honor his journey, his choices, his struggle to do better. You see his flaws and you don't weaponize them. You see his strength and you don't take it for granted. And that kind of respect, it doesn't just attract love, it secures it. Because men are not built to thrive under pressure, control, or emotional demands. They are built to rise when they are trusted, when they are believed in, when they know someone sees their potential and refuses to let them shrink from it. And when that someone is a woman who carries herself with dignity, who lives by her own values, who doesn't beg for loyalty but commands it, his response isn't just emotional, it's instinctive. He steps up, not because he has to, but because he wants to. Respect is not blind. It's not given freely to anyone who walks in the door. It's earned, and it's given consciously. You don't respect a man because of his title, his income, or his appearance. You respect him because he shows up, because he takes responsibility, because he owns his mistakes, because he tries even when it's hard. And when you honor that, quietly, consistently, without fanfare, you create a bond that nothing can break. Psychology confirms respect is the foundation of emotional safety in relationships. Without it, love becomes transactional. One person gives, the other takes. One pleases, the other withdraws. But when respect is present, the dynamic shifts. It becomes mutual, equal, grounded. You don't lose yourself to make him feel strong. You stand tall, and in doing so, you give him the greatest gift, the space to become his best self without fear of judgment. Think about the last time someone truly respected you, not just liked you, or not just desired you, but respected you. How did it make you feel? Seen, held, called to be better. That's the power you hold. When you respect a man, not as a savior, not as a provider, but as a human being on his own path, you awaken his deepest motivation to prove you right, to live up to the image you hold of him. And that's where real loyalty is born, not from fear of loss, not from obligation, but from a quiet determination to never betray the trust of someone who saw his worth before he fully saw it himself. You don't have to chase that kind of love. You cultivate it by refusing to engage in games, by speaking truth without cruelty, by standing by his side during challenges, not to fix him, but to honor his effort, by never belittling his dreams even when they seem small, by never mocking his fears even when they seem irrational. Because respect isn't just about big moments. It's in the small choices, the way you listen when he speaks, the way you defend his character when he's not in the room, the way you support his decisions even when you would choose differently. That consistency over time builds something unshakable. When a man knows without a doubt that you respect him, that you see his soul, not just his role, he doesn't just fall in love. He commits deeply, fully, without hesitation. Because he knows he's not just loved, he's valued. And that's what makes a man stay. Not need, not guilt, but the profound sense that he has finally been seen and honored for who he truly is. So live in a way that demands respect, not through arrogance, not through distance, but through the quiet power of your presence, your integrity, your unwavering standards. When you do, you won't attract men who want to control you. You'll attract the ones who want to stand beside you. And together, you'll build something real, something lasting, something that doesn't just survive time, but grows stronger because of it. This is the final trigger. Not a trick, not a strategy, a way of living. And when all five are alive in you, self-worth, purpose, emotional depth, quiet strength, and respect, love doesn't just find you, it bows to you. You were never meant to beg for love. You were never meant to shrink, to twist, to silence your voice just to be accepted. That kind of love, fragile, conditional, draining, is not love at all. It's dependency wearing a mask. And deep down, you know it. You feel the hollowness of it, the way it leaves you exhausted, questioning your worth, wondering if you're too much, too strong, too real. But here's the truth that changes everything. You are not too much. You are exactly enough. And the love you're meant to have doesn't require you to dim your light. It demands that you set it ablaze. Because the 5 triggers you've just uncovered, self-worth, purpose, emotional depth, quiet strength, respect, are not tools to manipulate someone into loving you. They are reflections of a life lived with courage. They are the natural byproducts of becoming who you were always meant to be. And when you embody them, you stop chasing love and start commanding it. Not through force, not through control, but through the sheer gravity of your presence. Think about the last time you walked away from something that didn't honor you. Not in anger, not in revenge, but in quiet clarity. That moment wasn't just an ending, it was a declaration. A silent vow to yourself, I will no longer settle for less than what I'm worth. And in that decision, you activated the most powerful force in human connection, self-respect. Because nothing attracts deep, lasting love like the unshakable decision to honor yourself. Men don't fall for perfection. They fall for authenticity, for the woman who doesn't need them to feel whole but chooses them anyway, for the one who has a mission, who speaks her truth, who stands firm in chaos, who respects both herself and others. That woman doesn't search for love. Love finds her because she has become the kind of person love cannot ignore. And this isn't about waiting, it's about building every day in the choices you make when no one is watching, in the way you speak to yourself, in the goals you pursue even when progress feels slow, in the boundaries you set without apology, in the way you handle pain, not by hiding it, but by growing through it. These are the bricks that build a life of meaning. And meaning is magnetic. You don't need to be louder. You need to be clearer. You don't need to try harder. You need to be truer. Because the right man isn't intimidated by your strength. He's awakened by it. He doesn't feel threatened by your independence. He's drawn to it because he knows instinctively that a woman who has mastered herself is the only kind who can truly walk beside him, not behind, not in front, but with. And when you live like that, grounded, purposeful, fearless in your authenticity, love stops being a question. It becomes a consequence, a natural result of who you are. So stop asking, will he love me? And start asking, am I becoming the kind of person love is drawn to? Because the answer to that question shapes your entire future, not just in relationships, but in every area of your life. When you raise your standards, the world adjusts, opportunities appear, boundaries are respected. People treat you differently, not because you demanded it, but because you embody it. This is not fantasy. This is psychology. This is human nature. We are drawn to strength, to clarity, to those who carry themselves like they know their worth. And when you live with that energy every single day, you don't just attract better love. You become capable of deeper love. Love that isn't based on need, but on mutual growth. Love that doesn't fear honesty, but thrives on it. Love that doesn't run from challenge, but faces it hand in hand. So keep going, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Build your life like it matters, because it does. Speak your truth like it's non-negotiable, because it is. Stand in your power like no one can take it, because they can't. And when love comes, and it will, it won't be because you finally got it right. It will be because you finally became you. And that's when everything changes. There's a quiet revolution happening inside you. You can feel it, not loud, or not dramatic, but deep. A shift in the way you carry yourself, in the way you speak, in the way you no longer tolerate what once felt inevitable. You're not the same person you were a year ago. Not because life was kind, but because you refused to let pain define you. Because you chose growth over comfort, truth over illusion. And that choice, repeated every single day, is rewiring your entire existence. You were never broken. You were buried. Under expectations, under fear, under years of believing you had to earn love by silencing your needs, hiding your fire, pretending to be smaller. But that version of you, she's gone. And in her place stands someone far more powerful. A woman who knows that love isn't something you beg for. It's something you become. And the moment you stop chasing it, everything changes. Because real love doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to certainty, to the woman who doesn't need to prove her worth because she lives it, who doesn't seek validation because she's already made peace with herself, who doesn't panic when someone pulls away because her value isn't tied to their attention. That kind of woman doesn't just inspire attraction. She creates emotional gravity. You see, men don't fall deeply in love with someone who mirrors their ego. They fall for the woman who reflects their potential. The one who looks at them and doesn't just see who they are, but who they could become. And when you carry that kind of vision, not as a demand, but as quiet belief, you awaken something in him that nothing else can. A desire to rise, to be better, to live up to the image you hold of him. That's not manipulation. That's leadership, emotional leadership. And it's the most powerful force in any lasting relationship. But here's what no one tells you. Becoming this woman isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. It's about showing up day after day, even when you don't feel strong, even when doubt creeps in, even when the world tries to pull you back into old patterns. You keep choosing yourself. You keep honoring your word. You keep walking forward, not because it's easy, but because you've decided once and for all that you are worth the effort. And that decision, it radiates. It changes the energy around you. People notice, not because you announce it, but because you live it. Your boundaries become firmer. Your voice becomes clearer. Your presence becomes undeniable. And the ones who can't handle it, they leave. And that's not a loss. It's a purification. Because love should never feel like a compromise. It should feel like an expansion, like two people growing, not clinging, like a shared mission, not a mutual dependency. And when you refuse to settle for less, you create space for the real thing. The kind of love that doesn't dim your light, but multiplies it. This isn't about waiting for the right man. It's about becoming the right woman for yourself first. The kind who doesn't need a relationship to feel complete, but chooses one because she has so much to give. The kind who brings strength, not need, purpose, not pressure, depth, not drama. And when you live like that, love stops being a gamble. It becomes a natural outcome. Because the universe rewards clarity. It rewards courage. It rewards those who do the inner work, who face their shadows, who refuse to betray themselves for temporary comfort. And when you do that, when you build your life on truth, not performance, something shifts. Not just in your relationships, in your entire reality. Opportunities appear, confidence grows, peace settles in, and love arrives not as a rescue, but as a recognition, a mutual acknowledgement that two strong people have found each other not to complete one another, but to create something greater together. So keep going, even when it's quiet, even when no one sees, especially then, because the most powerful transformations happen in silence, in the moments you choose integrity over approval, in the decisions you make when no one is watching, in the way you speak to yourself when the world feels heavy. That's where the real work happens. That's where the unshakable woman is born. And when she stands, fully formed, fully alive, fully free, love doesn't find her. It bows. You've already done the hardest part. Or you've looked in the mirror and chosen truth over comfort. You've faced the quiet ache of settling and said, no more. And in that moment, silent, uncelebrated, deeply personal, you crossed a threshold. Not into perfection, not into ease, but into power. The kind that doesn't come from outside approval, but from an unbreakable agreement with yourself. I will no longer betray who I am for the hope of being loved. That decision, more than any strategy, any tip, any secret, is what changes everything. Because love doesn't respond to performance, it responds to presence. To the woman who walks into a room not to be seen, but to see, who speaks not to impress, but to mean it. Who listens not to manipulate, but to understand. That kind of woman doesn't attract love. She invites it. And the invitation isn't loud. It's written in the way she holds herself, in the stillness behind her eyes, in the quiet certainty that she belongs wherever she stands. And here's what happens when you live like that. People stop trying to change you because you're not malleable. You're not desperate. You're not looking for someone to fix you. And that's the most freeing thing you can offer another human being, freedom from the weight of your neediness. When you release that burden, love becomes real. Not a transaction, not a rescue, but a meeting of equals. Two people choosing each other, not because they can't survive alone, but because life is richer, deeper, more meaningful together. That's the love worth having. The kind that doesn't crumble under pressure, the kind that doesn't vanish when conflict arises, the kind that grows stronger because it's built on something solid, truth, respect, shared purpose. And it only becomes possible when you stop asking, will he stay? And start living in a way that makes his staying a natural choice. Because loyalty isn't forced, it's inspired. It's earned not through sacrifice, but through strength. Through the woman who doesn't punish with silence, but communicates with clarity. Who doesn't play games, but sets boundaries with grace. Who doesn't demand effort, but inspires it simply by being someone worth rising for. You don't have to be flawless. You just have to be real. Real in your struggles, real in your growth, real in your refusal to go backward. And when you live that truth consistently, something shifts in the energy around you. The right people are drawn in. The wrong ones fall away, not with drama, not with blame, but with quiet inevitability, like seasons changing, like gravity pulling things to their natural place. This is not wishful thinking. This is psychology. This is human nature. We are wired to move towards strength, clarity, and emotional safety. And when you become that force in the world, calm, centered, unwavering, you don't just change your relationships, you change your destiny. So stop measuring your worth by someone else's attention. Stop letting silence from another person shake your foundation. Your value isn't determined by who stays or leaves. It's determined by how you show up when no one is watching, by the choices you make when it would be easier to give up, by the way you speak to yourself when the world feels heavy. Every time you choose courage over fear, truth over comfort, integrity over approval, you are building a life that cannot be shaken. And in that life, love doesn't have to be chased. It doesn't have to be begged for. It doesn't have to be earned through suffering. It simply arrives naturally, effortlessly, because you have become the kind of person love cannot walk away from. And when it comes, it won't feel like a miracle. It will feel like a recognition, like two rivers meeting after a long journey, like something that was always meant to be finally aligning. So keep going, not for him, not for anyone, for you. Build your life like it matters, because it does. Stand in your truth like it's non-negotiable, because it is. And when love finds you, because it will, let it be clear you didn't wait for it, you became it. And that's when everything finally makes sense. There's a moment so quiet most people miss it, when everything shifts, not because of a grand gesture, not because of a sudden change in him, but because of a quiet, unshakable decision in you. The moment you stop measuring your worth by his attention. The moment you stop twisting yourself into shapes just to fit into his world. The moment you realize, I am not here to please. I am here to be true. And in that instant, the entire dynamic changes, not by force, not by demand, but by the sheer gravity of your integrity. Because love doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to presence. To the woman who doesn't need to prove anything, who walks with her head high, not because she's perfect, but because she's committed. Committed to her growth, committed to her truth, committed to living in alignment even when it's hard. That kind of woman doesn't attract fleeting affection. She inspires lasting devotion, not because she's trying to hold on, but because she's strong enough to let go. And that's the paradox most never see. The tighter you grip love, the faster it slips away. The more you need it, the less you get it. But when you stand in your power, when you build a life so full, so purposeful, so grounded in self-respect, love doesn't become your goal. It becomes a natural consequence, a byproduct of who you are. You don't have to convince the right man to stay. You just have to become someone worth staying for. Someone who brings depth, not drama, strength, not struggle, peace, not pressure. And when he sees that in you, when he feels the stability of your presence, the clarity of your boundaries, the fire of your purpose, he doesn't just fall in love. He commits, not out of obligation, not out of guilt, but because he knows deep in his bones that he has found something rare, something real, something he cannot afford to lose. This isn't about manipulation. It's about magnetism, the kind that comes from living authentically, from refusing to betray yourself for the sake of connection, from choosing daily, deliberately to honor your word, your values, your vision. Because every time you do that, every time you say no when you want to please, every time you speak up when you want to hide, every time you walk away from what diminishes you, you are not losing love. You are making space for the right kind. And the right love doesn't punish you for your strength. It celebrates it. It doesn't fear your independence. It's drawn to it. Because a man who is truly ready for partnership doesn't want a follower. He wants a leader, or someone who knows who she is, where she's going, and isn't afraid to stand tall. When he finds her, he doesn't feel threatened. He feels called to rise, called to grow, or called to show up as his best self, not because he has to, but because he wants to. That's the power you hold. Not in your looks, not in your charm, but in your character, in your consistency, in the way you live your truth even when it costs you. Because the world rewards courage, not immediately, not always visibly, but inevitably. The right opportunities come, the right people stay, the right love deepens. Not because you begged for it, but because you became worthy of it. Not in a way that seeks approval, but in a way that commands respect. So stop asking if he values you. Start living in a way that makes it impossible for him not to. Build your life like it's already enough, because it is. Speak your truth like it's already valid, because it is. Stand in your power like no one can take it, because they can't. And when love comes, and it will, it won't feel like a rescue. It won't feel like a miracle. It will feel like alignment, like two strong people meeting in the middle, not because they're broken, but because they're whole. Not because they need each other, but because they choose each other every single day. This is not a fantasy. This is the natural result of living with courage, clarity, and unshakable self-worth. And the best part, you don't have to wait for it. You're already building it. With every choice, every boundary, every moment you choose truth over comfort. Keep going, not for him, not for anyone, for you. Because when you become the woman who refuses to settle, love doesn't just find you, it stays. You are not meant to be small. You are not meant to whisper your truth, to soften your edges, to dim your fire just to make someone else comfortable. That version of you, the one who bends, pleads, waits, and hopes, was never your destiny. She was a survival mechanism, a response to years of being told that love comes from sacrifice, from silence, from making yourself easy to hold. But real love doesn't thrive in smallness. It thrives in strength, in boldness, in the unapologetic presence of a woman who knows her worth and refuses to negotiate it. And the moment you stop apologizing for taking up space, everything changes. Not because the world suddenly becomes kinder, not because people instantly respect you, but because you do. And that internal shift, quiet, profound, irreversible, sends ripples through every area of your life. Suddenly you don't need constant reassurance. You don't panic when someone pulls away, or you don't twist yourself into knots trying to control outcomes. Because you've made a sacred agreement with yourself, my value is not up for debate. That kind of certainty is magnetic. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It simply is. And when a man encounters a woman who carries that energy, someone who doesn't need him to feel complete but chooses him anyway, he doesn't just feel attracted, he feels awakened. Because deep down, every man wants to be with someone who challenges him to grow, not someone who depends on him to survive. He wants a partner, not a project. And when you live with purpose, with clarity, with emotional maturity, you become the kind of woman who doesn't just walk beside him. You walk ahead of him at times, pulling him forward with the sheer force of your example. This isn't about power over him. It's about power within you. The kind that comes from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and where you're going. The kind that doesn't waver when he's distant, when life gets hard, when doubt creeps in. You don't need him to validate your journey, or you're already on it. And that independence, real, unshakable, deeply rooted, is what creates lasting emotional loyalty, because he doesn't fear losing you. He values you. And that's the difference between love that fades and love that deepens with time. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to be. Be the woman who speaks her truth without cruelty, who sets boundaries without apology, who stands firm in chaos, who respects herself enough to walk away from what doesn't serve her, who loves deeply, but never at the cost of her integrity. That woman doesn't attract weak men. She repels them. And that's not a loss, it's liberation. Because the right man isn't intimidated by your strength. He's inspired by it. He doesn't feel threatened by your independence. He's drawn to it. He sees in you what he wants to become. And when he finds you, not chasing, not clinging, but fully formed, fully alive, he doesn't just fall in love. He commits. Not because he's trapped, not because he's guilty, but because he knows with absolute clarity that he has found something rare, something worth protecting, something worth growing with. And that kind of love, it doesn't depend on perfection. It thrives on authenticity, on two people who aren't afraid to be real, to show up with flaws, with history, with scars, and still choose each other day after day, not out of habit, not out of fear, but out of deep, unwavering respect. So keep going, even when it's quiet, even when no one sees, especially then, because the strongest transformations happen in silence, in the way you speak to yourself when you're tired, in the way you honor your word when no one's watching, in the way you choose courage over comfort, truth over approval, integrity over ease. Every time you do that, you build a life that cannot be shaken. In that life, love doesn't have to be forced. It doesn't have to be earned. It simply arrives naturally, powerfully, inevitably, because you have become the kind of person love cannot walk away from. You were never meant to beg for devotion. You were meant to inspire it. And now you do. There is a quiet power in a woman who no longer performs, who stops editing herself to fit into someone else's idea of lovable, who stops measuring her worth by the silence between texts, by the tone of a voice, by the presence or absence of attention. That power doesn't come from arrogance. It doesn't come from coldness. It comes from a deep, unshakable knowing, I am not here to be approved of, or I am here to be myself. And if that's not enough, then it was never meant to be. And in that surrender to truth, something extraordinary happens. You stop chasing connection and start commanding it, not through manipulation, not through games, but through the sheer consistency of who you are. A woman who speaks with clarity, who acts with integrity, who doesn't punish with silence but communicates with courage, who doesn't twist the truth to avoid conflict but faces it with grace. That kind of presence doesn't just attract respect, it demands it. Respect, more than passion or chemistry, is what turns fleeting affection into lasting love. Because men don't stay for perfection, they stay for peace, for the woman who doesn't add to the chaos of life but brings order to it, for the one who doesn't escalate tension but lowers it with her calm, or for the one who, when everything is falling apart, doesn't point fingers but asks, what's the next right move? That kind of strength isn't loud, it's steady, and it creates a gravitational pull that nothing superficial can match. You don't have to be dramatic to be unforgettable. You don't have to be needy to be desired. You just have to be real. Real in your purpose, real in your boundaries, real in your refusal to return to old patterns just because someone promises love. Because real love doesn't ask you to regress. It asks you to rise. And when you commit to that rise, day after day, choice after choice, you become someone a man doesn't just fall for. He builds for. He plans for. He protects. That kind of loyalty isn't earned through sacrifice. It's inspired through strength, through the woman who doesn't collapse under pressure but becomes more focused, who doesn't beg for loyalty but lives in such a way that disloyalty feels like a betrayal of something sacred. When you embody that energy, you don't need to question his intentions. His actions will reflect them. Because no man who truly values you will risk losing you, not when you've made it clear that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. And that's the final truth. Love is not something you control. It's something you cultivate in yourself first, in your standards, in your daily choices. When you live with self-respect, when you honor your word, when you refuse to betray your values for temporary comfort, you create an internal environment where deep, authentic love can grow. Not forced, not faked, but earned. Naturally, quietly, powerfully. So stop wondering if he's serious. Start living in a way that only a serious man can keep up with. Build your life like it's already meaningful, because it is. Or pursue your purpose like it's already important, because it is. Stand in your truth like it's already valid, because it is. And when love comes, and it will, it won't feel like a rescue. It won't feel like you finally got it right. It will feel like alignment. Like two strong people meeting in mutual respect, mutual growth, mutual fire. Not because they need each other to survive, but because together they can build something greater than what they could alone. This is not a fantasy. This is the natural result of choosing yourself again and again, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because the world doesn't reward perfection. It rewards courage, consistency. It rewards the woman who keeps going, not because she's guaranteed a happy ending, but because she's decided her life matters, regardless of the outcome. And when you live like that, love doesn't just find you, it stays. And you become untouchable. There is a moment, rare, quiet, electric, when a man doesn't just say he loves you, he proves it. Not with words, not with gifts, but with consistency, with presence, with the way he chooses you, not once, but every single day. The way he defends your character when you're not in the room, the way he stands beside you when life gets hard, not to fix you, but to face it with you. And in that moment, you realize this isn't love because you finally made him stay. This is love because you became someone worth staying for. And that's the deepest truth no one tells you. Lasting love isn't won through effort. It's earned through evolution, through the quiet daily decision to grow, to heal, to become more than you were yesterday. Not for him, not for anyone, for you. Because when you commit to your own integrity, when you stop betraying yourself for the hope of being chosen, you become magnetic, not in a way that manipulates, but in a way that aligns. You attract not just love, but the right love. The kind that doesn't fade when challenges come, but grows stronger because it's built on something real. You see, men don't fall deeply in love with someone who needs them to feel complete. They fall for the woman who is already whole, who doesn't lean on them for validation, but walks beside them with her own fire. She doesn't ask, do you love me? She lives in such a way that the answer becomes obvious. She speaks her truth without fear. She sets boundaries without guilt. She pursues her purpose with quiet determination. And when a man sees that, when he experiences it, he doesn't just feel attraction, he feels responsibility, a deep, instinctive pull to rise to her level, to be someone worthy of her respect, because respect is not given, it's earned. And the woman who commands it doesn't demand it, she embodies it. She respects herself too much to tolerate disrespect. She values her time too much to waste it on games. She honors her word too deeply to break it, even when it's hard. And when a man sees that kind of integrity, consistent, unwavering, silent in its power, he doesn't just admire her. He commits to her, not out of obligation, not out of fear, but because he knows with absolute certainty that losing her would be the greatest loss of his life. This isn't about control, it's about influence, the kind that comes not from manipulation, but from mastery. Mastery of self, mastery of emotion, mastery of purpose. When you live with that kind of inner authority, you don't need to chase loyalty. You create the conditions where loyalty naturally thrives. You become the calm in the storm, the anchor in the chaos, the one he turns to, not because you soothe his fears, but because you help him face them. And that's where real partnership begins, not in dependency, not in need, but in mutual strength. Two people who don't complete each other, but challenge each other, who don't hide their struggles, but share them with courage, who don't avoid conflict, but move through it with honesty and respect. That kind of love doesn't just survive time. It deepens with it, because it's not built on fantasy. It's built on truth. So stop wondering if you're enough. Start living as if there's no question. Speak like you mean it. Walk like you belong. Choose yourself not once, but every single day. In the way you protect your peace, in the way you honor your needs, in the way you refuse to return to old patterns just because someone promises love, because real love doesn't ask you to shrink. It asks you to expand, to become more, not less. And when you do, you don't just attract a better man. You become a better version of yourself. And in that space, grounded, clear, unshakable, love doesn't just find you, it stays. And you become free. There is a quiet revolution happening inside you, one that no one may see, but everything responds to. It's not loud. It doesn't come with applause. It's the silent decision you made in the middle of the night, staring at the ceiling, heart heavy with past patterns. I will not repeat this. I will not betray myself again for the illusion of love. That moment, unseen, unrecorded, was the turning point. Not because you suddenly had all the answers, but because you finally stopped asking the wrong questions. You stopped asking, why doesn't he choose me? And started asking, am I choosing myself? And in that shift, your entire future changed. Because the truth is this, you were never meant to twist yourself into a version that's easier to love. You were meant to become so undeniably yourself that only the right person can stay. Not because you trapped him, not because you made him dependent, but because he looked at you, your strength, your clarity, your fire, and realized he had found something rare, something real, something worth committing to. And that kind of love doesn't beg for attention. It commands loyalty, not through control, but through consistency. Through the woman who doesn't play games because she's too busy building a life that matters, who doesn't panic when he's distant because her worth isn't tied to his mood, who doesn't manipulate with silence or guilt, but speaks with honesty and walks with dignity. Woman doesn't attract fleeting affection. She inspires lasting devotion because she is not a reaction. She is a force. You don't have to be perfect to be loved deeply. You just have to be real. Real in your purpose. Real in your boundaries. Real in your refusal to return to what diminishes you. And when you live that truth day after day, choice after choice, you create an energy that only strong men can match. Weak men fall away, not because you push them, but because they can't handle the light you carry. That's not a loss, that's a purification. Because the right man doesn't fear your strength, he's drawn to it. He doesn't feel threatened by your independence. He respects it, or he sees in you what he wants to become. And when he finds a woman who leads with integrity, who stands firm in chaos, who loves deeply but never at the cost of her self-respect, he doesn't just fall in love. He rises. He steps into his own power, not because he's forced, but because your example calls him forward. That's the power you hold. Not in your looks, not in your charm, but in your character, in the way you honor your word when no one's watching, in the way you protect your peace like it's sacred, in the way you choose courage over comfort, even when it costs you. Every time you do that, you build a life that cannot be shaken. And in that life, love doesn't have to be chased. It doesn't have to be earned through suffering. It simply arrives naturally, powerfully, inevitably, because you have become the kind of person love cannot walk away from. So stop measuring your worth by his presence. Start measuring it by your integrity, by how often you choose truth over approval, by how firmly you stand when the world tries to pull you back into old patterns, by how clearly you speak when silence would be easier. Because every time you do that, you are not just becoming more lovable, you are becoming unbreakable. And when you stand in that unbreakable truth, grounded, centered, free, you don't just attract love, or you redefine it. And in that redefinition, you don't just find a better relationship, you become a better life. You are not meant to be a backup plan. You are not meant to live in the space between his decisions, waiting for clarity that never comes. You were never designed to shrink your voice, silence your needs, or dilute your fire just to fit into someone's temporary idea of love. That version of you, the one who pleads with silence, who reads into every text, who hopes harder than she acts, is not your destiny. She was a survival strategy, a response to years of believing that love means sacrifice, that worth is earned through endurance, that being needed is the same as being valued, but it's not. And the moment you realize that, everything shifts, because real love doesn't live in uncertainty. It lives in certainty, in the woman who doesn't need to chase because she's already building something greater, in the one who speaks her truth without apology, sets boundaries without guilt, and walks away from what doesn't honor her without looking back. That kind of woman doesn't attract love that fades. She inspires love that fights to stay, not because she's hard to get, but because she's impossible to lose without consequence. And that's the power you now carry, not in drama, not in manipulation, but in quiet, unshakable presence. The kind that comes from knowing your worth so deeply that you no longer need to prove it, from living with such integrity that disrespect simply cannot survive in your space, from standing in your truth so firmly that anyone who can't meet you there naturally falls away, not with bitterness, not with regret, but with the quiet inevitability of alignment. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to beg to be seen. You just have to be fully, completely, unapologetically. Be the woman who shows up with purpose, who doesn't confuse attention with affection, who doesn't mistake intensity for intimacy, who knows that real connection isn't built in passion, but in consistency, in the small choices, in the way you speak when you're tired, in the way you handle conflict without cruelty, in the way you honor your word even when no one would know if you broke it. That consistency, day after day, silent but relentless, creates a gravitational pull that nothing superficial can match, because men don't stay for excitement, they stay for depth. For the woman who doesn't add to the chaos of life but brings order to it. For the one who, when everything is falling apart, doesn't panic. She leads, not with force or not with control, but with calm, with clarity, with the quiet strength that says, we've got this. And when a man experiences that, when he sees a woman who is not only strong but safe, not only independent but choosing him anyway, he doesn't just feel attraction, he feels grounded. He feels like he has finally come home, not to a place, to a person, to someone who doesn't need him to feel complete, but wants him to grow. Someone who respects him not for what he provides, but for who he is becoming. That kind of love doesn't fade, it deepens, because it's not based on need. It's based on mutual respect, on two people who are not clinging, but standing, shoulder to shoulder, facing life with courage, with truth, with fire. So stop asking if he's serious. Start living in a way that only a serious man can keep up with. Build your life like it already matters, because it does. Speak your truth like it already counts, because it does. Stand in your power like no one can take it, because they can't. And when love comes, and it will, it won't feel like a miracle. It won't feel like you finally got it right. It will feel like recognition, like two rivers meeting after a long journey, like something that was always meant to be finally arriving. Not because you changed for him, but because you became yourself. And in that becoming, you didn't just find love, you became worthy of the kind that lasts.